Hello. Welcome back yet again to another edition of the Have You Seen podcast. Today, we're here with you for a review of Old Dirty Bastard, A Tale of Two Dirties. It's the first documentary we've done in 2024. Something that I always try to work in because documentaries matter. And when I got the link for this one, I put the call out to all my frequent collaborators to see if anybody was interested, and Shy, without hesitation, stepped up, answered the call. I'm sure he's gonna have a lot to add to this podcast, so I do have Shy back with me. Shy, how you feeling?
Oh man, real good. Can't wait to get into this one, man. One of my favorite topics, hip hop, and definitely one of my favorite personalities for sure.
Yeah, so for me, obviously I know who Old Dirty Bastard is, right? I'm familiar with the music. I knew he was part of Wu-Tang Clan, but I would not say that I was a fan. Like, I was not a person that would list him as one of my favorites or anything like that. I could quote some of the verses, some of the bars, but beyond that, I really wasn't that tapped in. So for me, this was more of an educational type experience. For you, I would imagine it was more just being reminded, being able to reminisce about some stuff. Is that accurate?
Yeah, good. Man, I gotta run off the nicknames: Big Baby Jesus, Unica Sean, Osiris. For everybody who don't know, in that song he was talking about himself when he said he's finna bring Osiris in this. You know what? And of course, my favorite one from the Chappelle Show. Old Dirty Bastard now wants to be referred to as the Old Dirty Chinese Restaurant.
So, a different experience for both of us coming into this, and I think that's good because I feel like there's probably going to be two different types of people that are watching this documentary: people that know of him but don't really know about him, and then the people that knew about him that want to make sure that his story is told the way that it should be told. So I'm very curious how you're going to feel coming out of this one. There were some very big names that popped up in this documentary. Raekwon, Ghostface, Mariah, Carey, Dame Dash, which actually I was surprised to see David Dash personally. Some people declined the offer to comment. We also had his wife, his kids, his father all made appearances. His mother too, right? Was his mom in this? No, it was her parents. His wife's parents were in the
it was her in-law. Well, his in-laws.
Right. So his wife's parents were in the documentary. Her family was in the documentary pretty heavily. Directed by Jason and Sam Pollard. If I were to give a quick review of this one, I'm going to say it gives you a deep dive into the rise and fall of Old Dirty Bastard from those who knew him best, his friends, close associates, and most importantly, and maybe more importantly, his family. To tell the behind the scenes stuff that you don't necessarily get to know. Coming in for any documentary, my expectation is I want to learn something I didn't know before. I want you to hit all the important things that I do know about as well. And I want you to at the end of the day be able to tell a story. And I do think this documentary did that. How do you feel about it?
The only clip that they did not show was when he went on TRL and they asked him what was he gonna help. Like, I think it was like the community of the future, and he said nothing. He just looked at the camera. I was like, that to me was a hilarious moment. But a lot of stuff he did on MTV, they did show, like when he went to the check cashing place in a limo and picked up $400 in food stamps.
Me and my fiance will die laughing at that. And Torre was trying to defend himself, like, we didn't tell him to do this. I just put it out there since he did it. But yeah, that was a wild look. And then him defending himself. I think that they wanted to stay away from the stuff that was just, I guess, funny, and get with the stuff that more like actually caused him some to earn some flack or whatever the case may be. And that was definitely one of those moments.
For me, I just remember that as a kid, because I mean he was telling the truth, man. It's free money. Who am I to deny myself free money? I mean, for all those people, I'm not gonna put no names out there. Not gonna say who I've seen do it. But when you buy the food stamps from the food stamp person, it's free
Yeah,
money.
you got
You
the
get them their money.
exchange of
Look,
goods.
they
I see what
they
people
got
do
their
that
lights
too,
on. Look,
man.
they get to keep their lights on. You get some food.
I see people
Everybody's
get their
happy.
nail done for some food stamps. Like it happens. It's out there.
It, that's just the way it is,
It's
man.
the
So
economy. It's exchange. It's exchange of goods.
for me, I mean, like I said, I just remembered him, and they touched on this, but we'll get into that later. For me, he was just like this larger than life character. Like they had, I mean, you got Raekwon the chef, you got Method Man, you got, I mean, I can go through all nine, now 10 members of Wu Tang, but I won't. You had the RZA, like everybody had like this aura, but his aura was always different, but it drew you in
Yeah,
because he was just like this. I don't know. It
I
like
think
he was this.
Raekwon kind of said there's no father to his sound. Like him calling himself unique was legit. Like there's no you can't point to somebody that came before him and say this is who he got it from.
A son unique. I mean, he lived up to the name for sure.
Um,
But when I tell you, like just growing up, seeing him on TV, hearing his lyrics, and just hearing his songs, it just like I said, Raekwon can spit. It draws you in. Ghost draws you in. Method Man. Look, for me, it's one thing. For the ladies, it's another thing. I'm listening. When I listen to Method Man, I'm like, oh man, they up there looking, eyes glossed over, like they're looking at fresh meat. I'm like, what's wrong with y'all? It's just different things for different people. But ODB, yeah, he was the reason I wore Wu Tang shirts to school growing up for sure.
I think for me, so again, as a person who wasn't that tapped in, if you told me that who he was on stage was his actual personality, I would have believed you. But so this documentary kind of pulled back the curtain and said like it was a character for him. And I think he himself described it as being like the Incredible Hulk. Like on the day to day, he's Bruce Banner. When he get on that stage, he turns into ODB. And long story short, we kind of see over the course of the documentary that the putting on that mask, he kept forgetting to take it off eventually. That character became who he actually was off the stage, and that's where the problems ensue. But we talk about the early days, and another thing I didn't know is that he got his first deal off a freestyle on the Stretch and Bob show, which any hip hop head should know about the Stretch and Bob show. If you don't, I think I hope it's still on there. There's a documentary on Netflix about the Stretch and Bob show, and like pretty much any New York rapper that came up in the '90s would have got their start on the Stretch and Bob or would have made an appearance on there at some point. Biggie, Big L, Nas, they all were up there as teenagers on the Stretch and Bob show.
Yeah, Stretch and Bobito, they definitely cultivated like for me, I didn't get to hear any of that stuff till I got older
Right.
because of course I wasn't living in New York as a child. I was here in Texas, but when I finally did get to hear those things, like you just said, Biggie, Big L. There's a famous freestyle with Big L and Jay-Z. You got the one with Big Pun when he was there. Like you just have a lot of these legendary figures, and I mean, to hear that he was one of those legends that happened to be on there was not surprised.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything about his background before he kind of blew up that you wanted to hit on that you see in this documentary, or maybe something that you did you learn anything about his upbringing, his early days?
I knew about how he got his name Ason Unique. I knew about, all the nicknames and stuff like that. And I also knew that the RZA was his cousin. So I'm glad that for people who didn't know, knew that. But yeah, like a lot of those guys, they don't realize they're related. Yes, they're from different boroughs, different parts of Staten Island and things like that. But yeah, they touched on everything that who may not have known him. Like I don't expect everybody to be a big hip hop head, when I talk about Wu-Tang or other groups like that. But for people who didn't know, they did hit like certain notes. The one thing about the doc that I loved the most was the home videos.
Mm.
I like the home videos. Now that stuff, of course, I've never seen. Most stuff I've seen is the music videos and the few documentaries they do have. It's just more like that leftover footage from recording or something like that.
Right. So the documentary does, and that's one of the things they kind of push in the marketing is a lot of never before seen footage, him with his family, things of that nature. His wife actually, he gave her a camcorder and had her kind of document, what was happening and behind the scenes, which I thought was interesting. You see a lot of him spending time with his family. Again, a side of him that I don't know if people ever really got to see that. And I think for a lot of the people that were closest to him, they talked about who he was as a person, his heart, how kind he was, how unfortunately too giving he was, because when he did get money, he would give people money pretty freely, which is a story that we hear it all the time with people. You stay in the hood and either you giving it away because you just feel like you're supposed to, or somebody coming to take it, which also happened. And they talked about in the documentary the first time he got shot that it kind of broke him because he tried to stay home and do what was right, and the people that he loved, the people that he trusted, somebody shot him and came for him, stuff, robbed him. Like, uh, talk talk a little bit about just the home life, just the idea of him staying home, and I guess when he started to have some success, how that played out for him. And again, if you learn anything, hit on that or anything that stuck out for you in that portion of the documentary.
I mean, for him, of course, it was unique because it was him. But the thing that I kind of took from it was the normal, like you trying to keep that balance of being who you were with who you are. And he was trying to be, he was trying to be Russell. He was trying to be Ason. But at the same time, you're ODB. Y'all got records out. Y'all known through the, like, not at that time, throughout the country and
Yeah.
eventually the world. So for that, I mean, I think I think his old manager or something touched, not his old, not the manager he had with Dan. We'll get on that
Yep.
later too.
Yeah.
But I believe like his old manager or something like that said he just he wasn't built for it because he didn't know that's what was gonna happen.
Yeah. He
So
said,
a lot of those consequences
I
were
had to
that, yeah, he didn't know how to handle it.
I had the quote from the manager. I'm glad you brought that up. That he wasn't built for success. He wasn't upwardly mobile. He was actually maybe downwardly mobile. Like success was going to destroy him and obviously that's kind of how it ended up playing out. Um, I think about the fact that his family was in a shelter at one point while he was first starting out, start blowing up and whatnot. Like his family was in a shelter for 6 months. And then eventually he came and got him out. But to think about somebody starting to blow up, having a couple hot records, and his family's in the shelter, that's just not something that people think about when they think about where these people are from and how they might have been living before those moments come. Before we get to the Mariah record, is there anything we wanna touch on?
The thing for me was when like his wife said that, was people don't realize that when you get that first record and goes gold or whatever, you ain't making $1 million.
Yeah.
And at that time, they were still living with her parents. And
Uh-huh.
she was just like, y'all can't keep dropping these babies. Y'all gotta go. And of course, he's just starting out. So, and as the breadwinner, he can't just say, "Oh, we'll just move out."
Yeah.
Even in '90s New York City, it's kind of like now. You just can't. Oh man, we just go get an apartment out the classifieds and just go out there and move in tomorrow. Like, nah, it was a process. And again, going back to what I talked about him getting the food stamps, that's why he brought that up. Like I said, he threw the food stamp card on the desk and was like, "This is my cover for my album."
Uh-huh.
Because again, he wanted you to realize hey, this ain't all what it's looking like when we're wearing the mask, we in the Carhartt looking all hard in the video. That's not real life. When
Right.
we go home, we going home.
Yeah.
Like I laugh about it to this day because I never really saw a lot of women in their videos. Then I
Mm.
realized a good chunk of the Wu-Tang during the time they first got on were married and stuff like that. Like they had a family to take care of. So I'm like, that's why you had 9 people going hard. They had mouths to feed. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that you brought up for me, and is I'm struggling now. I think I lost it. Um in the beginning, I think he did lean into that again, the old dirty bastard persona. And while it was a little bit of a mask, it was a little bit of reality too. It was like he didn't just come up with that name out of the blue. He wasn't some rich kid, pretending to be poor. Like he grew up in the slums. Like he grew up at the bottom. He grew up, in the room in the house with 20 people. Like, and me and my fiance were laughing when the mother-in-law was like, once that third baby popped out, they had to go. They had to go. I appreciated that she was honest about how she felt about him. She talked about when he first came around and how she knew he was trouble from the beginning, and you could tell she still feels like his influence on her daughter's life might have been overall a negative. Um, I think they allowed her to be honest about that without it coming off malicious or seeming ill, like she was speaking ill of the dead or whatever the case may be. Like it was honest. It was, I was concerned for my daughter when she brought this boy around. But at the same time, she allowed him to live with her, so she didn't completely cut them off, which was interesting. But let's move to Mariah. Me and Mariah go back like baby. Everybody knows the intro.
That's
I
my
remember.
I don't care. Nobody say. I think besides Jay-Z on Heartbreaker, that had to be the second best one right there.
And I was hoping they would go deeper into the story behind it, because I feel like they kind of touched on it, they kind of mentioned it, but they didn't hit it as hard as I thought they would. The fact that like when they brought him in, I think Mariah said they had some new engineer, and he was supposed to help record the verse or whatever, and ODB got there. Now the way I heard it was he recorded like the first line, and then he went and took a nap, and then he came
Yeah,
back
he
like
came back as
hours
yeah.
later. He came back hours later and just knocked out the rest like it was nothing. Um, and again, iconic verse, but that's who he was. Like everything he did, he wasn't going to sit there in the lab and overthink it. Like he was just going to do him. And that being such an iconic record, such an iconic verse is fun. That's dope, and that's again at that point, that was when he started to think I might actually be able to be that guy,
He
which
did the
is dope.
crossover. Yeah. But the thing about that was, I mean, if you want me to extend on it, I can a little
Please.
bit. Mariah at that point was singing straight ballads. So she was trying to like, it was kind of like when Whitney went the other route, she married Bobby, but that's another story for another time. But she just didn't want to be known as just singing ballads and doing this. Like she said in the doc, she was a fan of hip hop. If you've seen Mariah's remixes to a lot of her songs, I mean, her list is impeccable
Yeah.
when she has features. I mean, everybody like you can't be a scrub and work with Mariah. I put it like that. She knows hip hop. Like I said, Jay-Z, ODB. You had Snoop. You had Cam. I mean, you can go on and on. So when she wanted to build her hip hop audience, not just a black audience, but her hip hop audience, she went all in. Oh, and shout out to the Locks. I gotta remember that she had Chic, Kiss, and P
Right.
on an album as well, and Mace as well. I had to remember that.
Yeah. Um, let me see here. again, this is the peak, right? The Mariah record is the peak. And um, again, the manager had already said it. He felt like he was not built for success. The more success he had, the more things were going to get rough for him. And so the next thing that really we talk about in this documentary is side babies. Um, his level of comfort with these side babies, like, hey, and I think it was his wife that was like, he would just come home and be like, hey, I got another baby.
Yeah. I was actually not surprised about that part because I remember he was kind of like ballpark number. I think he was talking about he had double digits in children at one point. He was like, man, I got this many kids like later on in his life. So yeah, I wasn't surprised. But
And
again, you got that kind of fame, you getting
yeah,
that kind of paper, and you know, Mike Jones said it back then. Now I'm hot, you know what I'm saying? So what else you gonna do with that if you're not used to,
right.
those things?
And him and his wife, they kind of met young, and so uh met young, multiple kids, and he's in the street, in the on the road all the time. Things are probably gonna happen. I the wife mentioned, she wanted a divorce, like she was not feeling this, and he was like, "That's not gonna happen. We
And
not
the
get."
funniest part about that was he was like, "What lawyer you gonna get that's gonna work for free? Because I'm not giving you the money to do that."
He
That's
laughed
basically
about
what yeah, he laughed about it. She said, "Where you going? You ain't going nowhere because I'm
it.
not paying for it, and I'm not gonna pay for you to pay for it. So we together. Ride this out with me." And she leaned back, looked at the kids, and said, "You know what? You're right. I'm gonna just have to ride this out with you."
um, so that part was interesting from the family perspective, because I think the daughters mentioned they were aware of this as well. And as a kid, I know that I personally I didn't really experience that, but as a kid, I know it's hard. Like when you got your family and you can find out that you got siblings running around out here that aren't in the household, and your dad is apparently thinking it acting like this is normal behavior. Um, I, it was interesting to see that from the family perspective. The next big thing that I wanted to hit was, again, this is something I never knew. Not surprising on a higher level, but something I never knew. The police had a whole in New York had a hip hop unit that was specifically tasked with following around rappers and trying to get them in trouble. In the documentary, they compared it to COINTELPRO, and Old Dirty Bastard was one of their favorite targets. They would follow him from the studio. They would follow him wherever he was going, stop him, see if he had anything on him. Of course, he often did, and that would lead to arrests. But the fact that this is a known thing, that they had police legit following him around, following rappers around, period, is very interesting. And they kind of snuck that in on this documentary. I wasn't ready for that.
Oh, the hip hop cops.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. If you knew, you knew. PE, Wu Tang, none of them dudes were making that up. The
And it's
government was indeed checking out every rapper. Matter of fact, when rappers talk about it now, well, the older ones anyway, they're not lying because we always find out years later there was indeed a dossier seeing their every move, their every acquisition, everything that they did. There is a record of it. So when they, of course, ODB was diagnosed with schizophrenia and stuff like that. So they thinking that the paranoia, but then to come to find out there was actual paperwork
yeah. And
for
I think
all 9 members. The whole group was under
95
investigation
pages. 95 pages on the Wu-Tang Clan, an FBI file.
because I mean, I jokingly say this, but it's true. Wu Tang was for the kids. They would teach you things you never thought of. They had your mind. Like I said, I relate to them because I was a kid. They used to watch the karate movies on the late show and stuff like that with my grandma and things like that. And of course, they had all the sounds. And then, of course, like they came from the same types of environments that I came from. So they were spreading positivity.
Right.
Oh yeah, of course, hip hop cops came for that.
um,
Why would you want that?
right, right. And it's again, anytime, but I forget how they worded it in the documentary. It was basically like anytime black people become influential, we got to keep an eye on them because we don't need them influencing the next generation of black people in a positive way. Basically, we don't need them rising up in any type of way.
Oh yeah, shot Tupac. They were looking at him too, and you know
uh,
how that went.
let's see. There was one other anecdotal story I thought was cool. I don't want to give away everything, but one other anecdotal story I thought was cool. Like even while all this is going on, there was a story about a girl who got hit by a car, and he ran over and lifted the car off her and pulled her out. And then he became friends with the mom. The mom like gave her his number, got his number, and basically said, call me if you need to talk. And he actually called her a few times to talk to her, and that was cool that they were included in the documentary as well.
That was a story that I only heard one time, so it was actually a refresher for me because MTV News literally reported that. I remember it. Like, what was his name? Kurt Lowe, wasn't it? What's his name? I'm trying to remember the MTV News dude.
Did they was he on there?
No, unfortunately, he was
I
not
don't
on
think he
there.
was in the
But yeah,
documentary.
that guy reported that, and I was like, "What?" And yeah, it's like, yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday. Like, yo, what? That wasn't just local news. ODB saving somebody, yeah, that made the wire for sure. It was actually pretty crazy, but like you said, it was really cool to see. Like she even showed the burn
On the
and
girls,
everything.
right?
Yeah, and the fact that he was like, "I gotta save this girl," and he tried, like, he basically used his adrenaline and the
Yep.
help of others to lift that car up over that girl. Yeah,
And I wanted to get that in there because we're about to shift to the fall, and it actually was way more abruptly than I remembered it because I was young. I mean, we were young around that time. We were in our teens, whatever. I don't even know how old you are, honestly. I ain't gonna ask, but I was around
I
16.
ain't want to say it.
Yeah, I was around
You already know
16.
my answer.
You had to be younger than me. That's all I know. You were younger than me. So uh he goes to prison. There's a bunch of drug issues. He goes to prison, and I think he was in prison for 3 years, is what they said.
3 years, yes.
He came out, and this is where things really got crazy, in my opinion. And watching the footage actually kind of hurt my soul of when he got out of prison, and your boy Dame Dash was there waiting for him. Mariah was there, and I think Mariah pointed out like she
Yeah,
had
he wasn't the same.
something was he wasn't him. He wasn't the same dirty that she had worked with. Um, Dame was trying to sign him because he was trying to corner everything. He said he was trying to have a person that touched every part of the rap market. ODB was confused.
Dame, when they show the footage of Dame basically tell him, "You signed to me." He said,
Right.
"I am," and he looking around in the limo. I'm a Rockefeller, and they're like, "Yeah."
And
And as a kid, you know, like I said, I'm glad you chose me for this one because I remember that. Like he was in the "Don't Stop" video with Beanie Siegel. And I remember like it was like this Dirt McGirt coming soon. And I was growing up, I was excited, but I was confused because I'm like, yay, ODB is gonna drop another album. I know it's gonna be crazy. But in the midst of all of this, why is ODB with Rockefeller? Like I knew there wasn't gonna be no Hove and ODB track coming out. Like I was confused. And then they had the documentary where like he came back and he did like I remember this like it was yesterday. He did this track with Pharrell, fresh out of prison. Again, this man is confused, and like Pharrell is trying to get him to sound and feel like this old ODB, and it just wasn't clicking because
yeah.
this man, you don't know what he like. They said in the doc, you don't know what he saw in there. You don't know what was going on in there. And then they had him on their drugs. Let's put it in air quotes in that.
Yeah.
So you don't know what kind of sedation or anything that was happening to him in there.
He,
And,
he didn't
and
look right.
yeah, it just didn't look right. And then his like I again when he came out, his face was full. Half of me didn't think it was him. When I was growing up, I said, "Hey, I ain't no ODB, man. He don't look like that." Like he looked like the dude looked different.
Yeah.
But to see that, I'll put it like this: what Dame is going through now,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, I see why
yeah. This
things like
was
that.
this is why I said I was surprised to see him in this documentary because he looks horrible in this documentary. Like I could see if he was, keeping in touch with him the whole time he was in, like looking out for him, putting money on his book, whatever the case might be, to make sure he was straight when he came out. And like, we'll talk about a deal. They didn't talk about it. He just decided you're signing with me. He had this manager that was like fresh out of college or something. He was like 20.
23 years old.
Yeah, that dude didn't know what he was doing, and you got him negotiating deals with Dame Dash. Like, come on, man. They picked him up again. The footage is actually uh what was the Netflix documentary where the kid making a murderer.
Yeah,
I had to turn that documentary off when the police were interrogating the kid that clearly has some type of special needs, and basically they made him confess to killing somebody. And after he confessed to killing somebody, he said, "Can I go now?" Because he wanted to go watch his wrestling. And that was the only reason he confessed in the first place, because he didn't realize he just confessed to killing somebody and he wasn't going anywhere. That's how I felt watching this, because you can see ODB is like looking around like what is going on, but like doesn't have it at that moment to like stop what's going on. And Dame is sitting there smiling and cheesing in the camera, like, yeah, we signed an ODB, everything is good, with absolutely no concern for how the quality of his life at that moment.
um, again to go back to that time. I mean, this is when our favorite poet laureate Sean Corey Carter saw what was going on. It was kind of fading back. So this was basically, again, you're drowning, and what do you do when you're drowning? You're trying to do what? You're trying to swim back up. You gas for air. So he was like, again, he was signing just all these people, and yeah, that was one of his. Because I can name almost everybody who was on there during that time. Tierra Marie, all of them. I can name everybody who was there, and wasn't nobody really selling.
Right.
So
He
for
just
him
had
to
a
take advantage of a man like that, no, I mean the lack. And then when they talked to him, he still had a lack of concern.
right.
Like he still was like, "Hey, I did what I had to do."
He's acting
You
like it
know
was
that
normal that it went down that way. Like it was this was fine. There's no
exactly.
remorse. There's no uh we should have did it differently. And I wish I was paying attention, blah blah blah. No, he was like, this was business, basically.
He just shrugged
Um
his shoulders and was like, "Hey, the end result was the end result." He even mentioned that he said, "This is the first person to pass under my watch."
mm,
And when he said that, I was like, "Because you didn't know
you
what
didn't
you
care.
had, who he was.
You didn't care.
You just you knew he was a name, and you took advantage of that."
Um he in the documentary it's mentioned that he allegedly paid $1 million out of his pocket for ODB, and his wife, ODB's wife, in the documentary says we never saw any of that money. There was no $1 million,
Never
which
saw Don.
which again, taking advantage of somebody. Um,
Again, I'm gonna say what I said before. You want if y'all wondering why Dame is in the boat he in right now, well, there you go.
Karma. Um, the other piece of this that goes to what you were saying about the confusion of why he was signing with Rockefeller. I think it was Ghostface said that they were watching hearing the news that he was signing with them and was like, damn, like I guess we let him down. Like he just thought that ODB had chosen to leave them and go over there without telling them, and that it was their fault because they didn't do right by him for some reason. Um, that's just another layer of it that things were not good. Communication, nobody was really paying attention, and that's how we get to the end that we get to, where again this kind of transitioned abruptly as well. When he collapses in the studio, his son's with him, and I think this is where like stuff gets real emotional. I don't know how old his son was at the time. Do you by chance?
I think he said he's probably about like 7 or 8.
So he's little, like he's yeah, and he said this is
But
all he
before
remembers.
that, the scene that really, because I lived all of this as a kid, so I don't like I was probably like preteens, 10 or so.
Right.
I was real young when all this happened. Um,
The
Method
concert,
Man, no, Method Man had hugged him and he was like kissing on him,
mm,
like like he's like looking for his old friend.
right? Yeah,
And a lot of them, like again, when I think about Wu-Tang, I think about them as just strong unit of unique, I just say it, geniuses. Matter of fact, that's what Jesus stands for, genius. So when you take one away, you are going, I mean, they did like feel like a brotherhood, even though those guys were like, if you've ever seen that chart, Wu-Tang was a group, but they were all like on different labels, but they were one unit.
right,
And to see that part, it got to me a lot, because I was just like, you don't want that for anybody that
right.
you don't want to see anybody that you're around, that you love, that you've ridden the waves with, to be like that.
Yeah, and
So
that was a powerful scene for sure. Bringing it back is like making a hit for me again. There was that moment, and then there was the moment where they had like the concert where they brought everybody back, and he's just kind of sitting on stage, like kind of out of it.
yeah, he was incoherent and everything, because again, they didn't know that he was back on. No one knew he was back on drugs like that. And then go back to where, like, um, his son, I believe his name was Hassan too, right?
Um, yes, hold on, I had it written down somewhere too. I actually looked him up. Not everything. I actually looked him up because he
Because
made
he
some
rapped. Yeah, he rapped too. But yeah, like,
something son. I can't think
yeah,
of.
it's something Hassan, like it's Ra Hassan or something like that.
I'm gonna find it.
But he was just talking about how basically him and his sisters were crying. They're screaming, mama screaming, Hassan, wake up. And everybody's looking blank. And of course, when you don't see nobody shedding a tear or something like that, it makes you feel away.
Right.
But like Ray and like Raekwon and everybody was saying in that moment, it was, I mean, some people just go stoic, they go numb, because you're wondering what is going on. Like your mind's in a million places. You're not thinking just to cry like that at sometimes.
Bar son.
Yeah, bar son.
Um,
So yeah, like you just, so yeah, she's yelling at everybody who ever got high with them, ever took money from them or anything. But for some of the members of the Woo were there, they were just like beside themselves. And then the rest of them, like, literally just ran up there and was like, okay, what's going on? Lifeless body just sitting there, just
yeah. So
laying
the
there. So
family, I think she said, I think it was the wife, the daughter, one of the daughters was on one side of him. Son was going crazy. I think she said the son was trying to
he
fight
was fighting
everybody.
through the police. Yeah.
Yeah, he was trying to fight people. And I can't remember. I think it was the mom. She said when she looked around, nobody was crying but the family. And like you said, she just went off on everybody. And even when she was talking about it in the documentary, it felt fresh. It felt like she was feeling it at that moment, like she was in that for the first time. And again, that's another one of those things where, when everything's going good and we can get stuff from you, everybody's in your face, bigging you up, laughing, they ready with a handout. When you at your lowest, where they at? Where's the love? Where's the concern? And again, I can't imagine what she dealt with the entirety of their relationship. And really, he was my age when he passed, which kind of hit home as well. Like he was 35, 36. And that's an interesting idea to think about his entirety of his kind of run being within like a 13-year window, including the 3 years in jail. So really he had like a 10-year run of being a known commodity. And she was there for all of that and was there at the end as well. Anything we didn't hit, I think we both, for you said the Method Man moment was kind of what stuck with you. For me, it was the wife talking about getting to the studio and again looking up while she's like there holding him and seeing the people around and like nobody else is crying but the family. That definitely is something that's gonna stick with me. Um, Anything we didn't hit that you wanted to make sure we mentioned before we do this rating?
Just that, I mean, he did have people that cared. It's just that when you get so far gone, it's only so much you can do. Like one of his friends, she's basically was like upset. She literally like stormed out of the studio. It was
Yeah,
like, he is high. He is high. Y'all got him in there and he's high.
yeah.
And it broke her.
She
She started
talked
crying
about,
right then and there.
yeah. She did she leave? I don't think she left in the documentary. She definitely started crying.
Yeah.
She basically said he didn't even recognize her. He was so
He
high,
didn't recognize it. And that's when she left. Yeah, she got in the cab. Remember, she got in the cab and left.
which
She
is
didn't want to
sad.
she didn't want to see her friend like that.
Right, right. Um, and you have to wonder, was there anybody even trying to help him get clean?
I mean, if you
And
listen to, he
that's
was in
not discussed.
rehab and went to, yeah, he went to, yeah, he was trying. They wanted to help him, but
Who's they?
his family,
That's
his
what I'm saying.
family.
Besides the family, like were any of the people that were in the studio with him and trying to get him to record and sign deals and whatnot, were any of those people actually caring about the fact that he was using as heavily as he was? That I don't think they really addressed that.
Yeah,
And,
that's yeah. Other people, nah, but definitely like his wife and everybody,
right.
they wanted to see, the ones that were in this small circle were
And
definitely advocating for him.
they do show the home video moments where, like you said, you could kind of see like his wife was noticing that he wasn't himself and stuff like that. Overall, let's get into it. Do you think this documentary set out to do what it or accomplish what it set out to do?
Oh, it was a powerful documentary.
Scale of 1 to 5.
1 to 5 for me. It was about like I'm gonna be night. I'm gonna try to take my bias out of it because it was just cool to see ODB again. It cool to just cool to hear another Wu Tang story. Um,
No, specifically on did they accomplish what they set out to do? 1 to 5.
it was cautionary and it was powerful. So yes.
I need
So
a
I
number.
would give it a 4. I'll give it a
Four.
4.
That's where I'm at too. I gave it a 4 for that. Entertainment value, like did it keep you entertained? Is the pacing good? 1 through 5.
At the beginning, I give it a 4.5. Near the end, it got a little too dark. So then I had to bring it down to like a 3, 2.5.
So what's the overall? What's the average? You
I'm about
coming
to
up
give it right there in the middle. 3.
a three? Okay. I think that's fair. I think I'm gonna go with a three as well. Your emotional connection to the story was that
Oh, 100% five.
five easy?
100% five. Like I said, I'm one of the rare people who probably can sit here and name all now 10 members because people used to argue with me. Is Capadonna a part of the Wu-Tang Clan? He is indeed a part of the Wu-Tang Clan now. So it's about 10 members because I'm never going to say that ODB is not a member anymore. He
Gotcha.
is Wu-Tang forever, like the tagline says. So yeah, for me, it was definitely 5 out of 5 just as a hip hop historian, of a fan of this genre, and just a fan of him overall. Yeah, it was
I
a
got
5
you.
over.
X Factor. So X Factor is kind of like, is there anything about this documentary that makes it special? I guess. Uh, for me, I'm gonna go two there. It kind of was pretty straightforward as a documentary. Like I said, there were a couple things that were not expected by me, but I would say it's a pretty standard documentary overall. No,
Yeah,
actually, I'm gonna go with a three for the behind the scenes footage. I'm gonna give it us some points for that.
yeah, because that again, that was like everything, like the MTV with Torre footage and stuff like that. That stuff I've seen before. That's my for me. I was just living back my childhood when he ran up on the Grammys. Again, that was my childhood right there. So none of that stuff was new to me, but the behind the scenes, like the family home videos, yeah, that was the new eye opener for me. And just hearing his wife and kids talk for the first time in a while, because I think
Go up to a four. Dang. All right, I'm
because
going.
when you see you went up to a 4 when I broke it down like that, because I was like, for I can name a lot of artists who have passed. You've heard from their kids, you've heard from their spouses, and things like that. Like for Biggie, I mean, we've heard from Faith Evans before. We even heard from his first child's mother before. We've heard from his kids. We heard from He Who Should Not Be Named about about Biggie. But yeah, so you get that. Big Pun. You've heard from his wife. You heard from his kids. Matter of fact, Chris Rivers raps. You know what I'm saying? So you've heard these guys, but from someone like ODB, we haven't heard from his kids
Right.
and his spouse. I
So
mean
what's
his
that?
widow. So you haven't heard from that. So that was actually very unique about this.
1 to 5.
Yeah, that a 4.
Oh, all right. And finally, did it keep you on your toes? Did it keep you like wanting more, basically, as you were going along?
That's when I'm coming down to like a 3
Okay.
because I already it was just like any movie
Documentary.
or documentary about when you see a person that lived, like what's gonna happen at the
Yeah,
end.
that's fair.
So it's not like I just expected a 180. Oh man, he's alive and well,
You
and
didn't expect any surprises.
yeah, he's in upstate New York now, living his best life. Like I knew he had passed when I was a kid in '03. So
I got you.
yeah, I so for that I knew I was anticipating. I was like, the only thing I heard was how, but there was no detail, of course. It
Got
was just he was in the studio, he OD, it was over.
you. Yeah.
But to hear that he was in there for a minute
Right. It sounds like he was
and
there for a
people
while.
just and people just gathering around, that when it was like, whoa, what is
Got
going on here? And that was the part that got to me. But I knew what was gonna happen. So that kind of took away that I was like, okay, so we're gonna talk about this man's passing, correct? And we did.
I think
And then they also showed something I've never seen before, and that was his actual service. I had never seen that before.
true. True. They did have that at the end. We both came out to a 19 out of 25, which is a 3.8 out of 5. That's a very good rating. Definitely will recommend this. It's coming out August 25th on A&E. I believe at 9 p.m. Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, on A&E. So you can catch this when it comes out on TV or DVR it if you're not gonna be able to actually watch it live to make sure you
On demand, all that.
on demand, however, whatever you got going on with your cable or whatnot. You definitely will be able to check this out on August 25th. I'm gonna get this review out so you have some time to check it out before and or after. But anything you got to say before we get up out of here?
Wu-Tang forever. Wu-Tang is for the babies. Wu-Tang is for the children. Y'all already know. Like he said, keep those who mean you well in your cipher. If they don't mean you well, kick them out of your cipher. For those who know, they know. Like I said, as a hip hop historian and a Wu-Tang lover, I'm just glad that they told this story with people from the group. They had his family. I'm glad it was well rounded in terms of how it was told. I the thing I love about when Mariah speaks on anything, and I'll be done when I say this, is she gonna make sure she look luxurious. You see the city in the background. She got a nice dress on. She parlayed on the couch. I said, Mariah ain't gonna let you see her looking like she was like, nah, I ain't just gonna have no regular clothes on with my hair in a ponytail and talk about OD. Nah, ODB. I want y'all to see, hey, the Mariah Carey y'all always see is the Mariah Carey you're gonna see today. Man, that was the part because if you looked at everybody else talking, it was plain Jane stuff. Everybody's in the studio or in some kind of like something. Her luxurious New York apartment with the city lights in the background. I said,
full
Mariah
about to go perform right now.
Like she was about to sing Fantasy with a hologram ODB. Like she was about to redo the song. I was like, dang. So yeah, but that part tickled me because I ain't never seen her look like raggedy in not one documentary or speak piece she's ever been in. Mariah gonna stay a hip hop, not a hip hop and a pop icon in anything she in. So shout out to Mariah Carey.
Shout out to Mariah, all the people that made appearances. Again, like I said, I wasn't sure what to expect from this documentary. I got everything I could have wanted, and again, highly recommend checking it out when it does drop on A&E next Sunday. Until next time, folks. Peace.